Hi guys, welcome to Signal Path. Today we are talking about the Auto series from Gamechanger Audio. The Auto series blurs the line between modular and pedal analysis engine and a couple other things to deliver something that is like kind of its own system and really its own approach to this form factor. Everything kind of begins with a split with this very, very small kind of splitter box that takes a copy of your dry signal and splits it out to each of these pedals in individual analysis engines that basically allow you to determine your playing dynamics and your pitch, where it will kind of read, am I playing high or low below a certain kind of center pitch that you get to determine. And from that place, whether you're above or below that particular point, you can change any parameter in the pedal that you would like. So, for example, I might be able to say, I may want to create a duct delay. And so I can use this where if I patch my dynamics into my delay level, I can create a duct delay by just kind of creating a couple of these patches. It's a very, very cool, but very, very dense process. And this video is not really going to get to the sounds right away. We're going to talk mostly about what is accomplished in this form factor, how it works, and how to think about it. And we are going to, in separate videos, talk about the deep dive of sounds with each of these individually, because there is so much to talk about. And really, there's a lot of brilliance that is packed underneath kind of the surface of these pedals. And I think it is worth spending dedicated time just learning how they think and how they operate. Gamechanger Audio has a long history of kind of breaking boundaries and thinking way outside of the box. And this is no different. If you are if you're somebody who is coming to this from purely a guitar and pedal standpoint, but you're curious about modular synths and about CV at large, this is a phenomenal way to learn and gives you an incredible playground to get used to what patching looks like, how to think about, things like attenuation for CV and all of those kinds of things in a pedal familiar kind of form factor that is easy to access and easy to get great sounds out of very, very quickly without the need of kind of broad peripheral equipment. And so I would say if you're curious about CV, curious about modular and all of those kinds of things, this is an incredible place to start and one that I would highly, highly recommend. So for today, we're going to hear sounds. We're not avoiding the sounds, but we are going to mostly focus on the process, which I think is really, really fun. These are the kinds of things that I get very excited about. And so I'm excited to dive in. Before we do that, if you like this kind of content, it would mean a ton to me if you would go ahead and like this video, which lets YouTube know to recommend this kind of content in the future, and subscribe to the channel to follow along. I'll be posting deep dives for all three of these pedals, and we're gonna, kind of go through a number of cool sounds and approaches that I think, if you are this far down the pedal rabbit hole, I think you'll find a lot of kind of fun from and a lot of benefit from. We'll jump into it. All right, let's take a look at the Auto series. I'm playing my Fender Telecaster into the Euna and Cali 76 Stacked Edition, into the Auto series here, and out to the Quad Cortex and the Panther Preamps, which are basically serving as kind of amps and interface. Sounds like this, and here's the Auto series. Let's break this down part by part. Before we get too far into the pedals, I want to talk a little bit about the interface and how these pedals are calibrated, because this is something that is unique to the Auto series and one of the most innovative approaches to kind of pedal control and design I've seen in a long time. This box on the right here is essentially a clean split that is daisy chaining through all three pedals to bring us two kinds of analysis. The first one, if you kind of noticed, is this left LED strip on all three pedals. Basically is measuring and feeding back our dynamics. So if I start, chugging away on the guitar, what you'll see is that line on all three pedals start to jump. But then also on the right side, this second strip is accounting for the pitch of what I'm playing. So if I start playing low, it's going to stay very, very low. But if I start playing up high, obviously this starts to jump up into that red area. And this allows us to do two very, very cool things. One, it allows us to basically have some analysis that we can then apply to different parameters within the pedals. I'm sure you've noticed by this point that all of these pedals have a patch bay in the center of the pedal, and there's a handful of these little patch cables that I've plugged in to just kind of start us off. But essentially what's happening is when I have a patch, right? So these outputs on the left basically take whatever is being read out from the LED strip, output them as CV, and then there are 4 inputs on each pedal that correspond to kind of the primary parameters of the pedal. But also you can interface this with external CV devices, things like modular synths, outboard gear, all manner of things that can receive CV, whether that be on your pedal board or elsewhere. This pedal turns into an analysis engine for the signal that you feed it along those 2 dimensions of dynamics and pitch. So if we go back to our auto chorus setting, we can kind of see what the impact of this is. A couple of things worth noting where the LEDs are kind of lit by this patch bay. You can see when something is outputting CV or not. So if I play low, you can see that the little LED dots next to the output for the pitch side are dark, but as soon as I start playing higher, they light up. So what's happening here is if I cross over this kind of threshold on this side, it starts to send CV to this top left input for the pedal, which is controlling our level parameter. So there are 4 kind of mini knobs below our primary parameters on all 4 pedals. What these do is basically say, hey, when we receive positive CV, what should we do? So right now, what this is doing is it is maxing out the mix. If I brought this back to center, basically this would turn the change off. So you can see it's registering CV, but it's not doing anything. And if I were to turn this knob all the way down, it would decrease the level. Now, because the level's already kind of at the lowest possible setting, I need to turn this up in order to hear the difference. But now when I play low, you can hear the vibrato. And when I play high, the CV that's being sent is turning the level all the way off. And so this is kind of like if you're in the modular world, sort of basically an attenuverter. This is something that basically chooses how much change the CV should cause and in which direction. We'll leave this patch on for now. But basically, what this allows me to do is take my dynamics and my basically note selection and turn that into a dynamic component of the performance, right? So if I play, something that's low, and I kind of want, no chorus, something I can do here is I can calibrate our center pitch. Basically, where should the threshold of pitch come in? So what I got to do that is I have to hold this down, play a note, and that kind of becomes the new point where if I play below that note, it goes down. If I go above that note, it goes up. And so that sort of is how you calibrate on that side. Similarly for dynamics, it wants to hear the amount of noise you're planning on making, and it'll kind of calibrate based on that. So say we wanted our level to be determined by dynamics. We can do that. So let's move our output here. Instead of the pitch side. We can move our patch over to the dynamic side. And now, when we play low, it's dry. And we play a little bit more loudly. When we're talking about dynamics, there are 3 modes. There's fast, which we're currently on, which basically sort of takes exactly what you put in and turns that into CV. There's also rise, which makes a lot of this a little bit more gradual. So if we go to that center mode, kind of floats up and floats down a little bit more slowly. I think this is probably the more musical approach, definitely a little bit more subtle in many respects. Just kind of floats in and out in a really, really pleasant way. And we can actually add to this patch. So we could take another patch cable and we can take the same dynamic output and plug that into depth. And now what we can do is we can turn depth all the way down, level all the way down, and just add a little bit of depth. And now these two things will kind of float in and out. Now, if we wanted that to feel a little bit more extreme, so that's kind of exactly what's happening. Is these 4 knobs determine how much and in which direction the change occurs, and the main parameters operate like a normal chorus delay reverb pedal. We're going to do some kind of in-depth sound samples for each of these pedals. So this video is really just focused on how these pedals work and the way that they think in really, really interesting ways. And I want to show next kind of, we'll move on from the chorus to the delay for a minute, because I think there's some really cool things that can make you think a little bit differently about how delay functions. But the thing that I think I'm the most excited about the delay side of this, and this is, I guess, true kind of across all 3 pedals, but it's the most obvious with the delay, is that if I want to set my tap tempo, all I have to do is step on both of these, and it'll show me exactly the tempo that's being shown. But here's where it gets really, really cool. I can play my guitar. So if we can turn the level off for a minute. I can just play my guitar, and it can change the tempo by holding both of these switches. But it gets cooler than that, because it can do that, right? But you can hear my guitar. Because I have the clean blend coming through this splitter, if I turn my volume pedal all the way off, so you can't hear my guitar anymore, what I can do is basically or I can turn it halfway down. Let's turn it. I'll show you guys exactly what I'm playing. So I'm going to turn my volume pedal off now and still change the tempo. So what you can see there is my volume pedal's all the way off, and because the pedal can hear the clean tone before my volume pedal, because of the splitter, I'm able to set a tap tempo silently without having to set a specific pedal or a specific foot switch to that tap tempo functionality, which is great for live because you can just basically set this up. It's a really, really clever way to do that, but with the analysis engine that they've kind of built in and the clean blend setup, It's really kind of convenient and really, really cool. So, when we're talking about this here, one of the things that I think is really, really cool about the auto delay specifically is if I go to the repeats here and turn the repeats auto knob all the way down, what I can do is I can have an oscillating delay that when I play with dynamics actually kills the repeats. So it's kind of cool, atmospheric. It feels great to have that kind of gritty perpetual repeat. But what if it clashes with the next thing I'm going to play? By kind of setting this up this way, I can have that big forever repeat thing going on, but where it just completely stops the thing I played before if I play a new chord. If you can hear that, like I'm playing that like big E. And the moment I play a B, that's all that you hear in the delay. So it's a really cool way to get like big tails and long repeats, but in a way that doesn't feel ducked, because that's not exactly what it's doing. It's just basically killing all the old repeats and then replacing it with new ones as your dynamics kind of fills it back in. And the reason for that is when this knob is turned left, it is turning that parameter down, and when it's all the way left, it's turning that parameter all the way down. If you wanted to create a ducked delay, we can do that. What we're going to do is we're going to take this patch out. We're going to leave the repeats kind of as is for the moment. And we're going to take our dynamics output and plug that into our level input. And we are going to turn the auto knob down a little bit. So we have a delay now. So if we turn that level kind of up just slightly and start playing, you can kind of hear how that's ducking out when I'm playing bigger notes. I could make it drop out entirely. So as you can see, that's kind of how you use the patch bay in like conventional senses. There's a lot of things that if you sort of think a little bit outside the box, the patch bay is just doing kind of forms of automation that we're used to using in a variety of ways. We can like turn the chorus into a dynamic kind of modulator that does some kind of random feeling things. There's definitely some things to that are definitely possible in a pretty unique way with that. With the delay, you can create like ducked delays or these like beds that reset if you want something that is big and that is ambient. And with the reverb, which we can kind of take a look at now, on top of being, great sounding effects across the board, there are some really cool ways that we can sort of fill up space with the reverb using our dynamics. We can sort of make something where if we want clarity when we're playing, but we want the decay to sort of take over when it's quiet from what we're playing elsewhere. we can make that happen. So now when we play loud, it pulls the decay down, but when we let go, it brings that decay back up. And if we can actually bring that up even more. Kind of creates this nice bed behind what we were playing previously. If I take this patch cable here and we do a similar thing to our level control, bring the level up, but then also attenuate it a little bit when we play loud. Maybe bring that back ever so slightly. You can see when I swell kind of in, it sort of pulls back a little bit, and then as soon as I stop playing, it kind of increases. If we take this from the rise mode back to kind of our fast mode here, there's some really cool ways that you can use the dynamics to manipulate things. There are really cool ways to kind of make pitch something that manipulates things. If we want to, for a second, make pitch control our decay, pull these patch cables out, and we're going to make pitch. We'll say that high pitches are going to increase our decay so that we can get some like kind of clarity in the low end, but some kind of big, bold increases when we play those high up notes. Make sure this is in note mode, and then we're going to take the pitch and we're going to kind of increase it so that when we play high, it's going to add some CV. Let's go ahead and calibrate our midpoint note, basically where that CV is going to cross over. So this kind of becomes like a compositional tool, right? Where if we sort of decrease the way that the automation is adding to it, just to keep it a little bit more tame, but I can kind of create a lick up high. It's going to increase the decay. Maybe just a little bit more increase there. It's a big reverb, and then as soon as I kill it, it kind of brings it all the way down. We can make this even more dramatic if we turn the decay all the way down with the increase all the way up. That just basically is killing out, when I play those low notes, it's killing out the decay. What's kind of cool about this is I can actually do this silently. I've got the volume pedal, again, after the clean split, but before any of these pedals. And so it's using the guitar for analysis, but it's something that I can basically, you know, you can kind of create like kind of some interesting things where like right when before I play that low note, I just kill the volume pedal. Kind of an interesting, like there's some like cool performance implications for some of these things. And there are kind of times and places where you might want like your high notes processed differently from your low notes. And so that, there's kind of like a case to be made for things like the chorus. I may want my high note to sound nice and wobbly. But I want my low notes to sound nice and firm. So there is so much to explore. There are multiple modes and kind of cool features underneath each of these pedals, and I will have kind of in the coming days individual videos for each of these, but I wanted to cover just kind of the specifics of how these work and how I think about using these effects, because I think they are a lot to take in, and I think this is a great foundation for understanding exactly what's possible here. They've laid out an incredible foundation, and I really hope that we see more kind of these kinds of pedals from Gamechanger that sort of blur the lines between kind of like almost like a modular synth device and a guitar pedal. I'd love to see things like maybe distortions and maybe like some version like the Plasma that takes a form like this, because I think there are so many really, really special things that you can do without even really bringing in other devices. This is just what's possible internally to these three pedals. The possibilities kind of start to like exponentially explode when you start tying in other devices in a complicated pedal board. There are many, many things, and just this like the amount of generosity, I would say, of this design to give us this incredible analysis engine that is also a very, very cool effect. I think the analysis engine on its own is worth the cost of admission just because of what it enables you to do kind of globally in terms of interpreting your pitch, interpreting your dynamics. But there's a lot to explore, and I'm excited to kind of dive deep into the specific sounds of each of these. But this is the Auto series from Gamechanger Audio. Let me know, do you have any questions? Are there things that this is sparking for you that are worth exploring? What do you want to see from these? Because I'm having a ton of fun, and every time I talk about them with people, I come away with a new idea, a new approach to test out, and I want to hear your thoughts. So let me know, but thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.